Welcome to Filmfest Bremen in cooperation with Indie Film Talk. My name is Christoph Dobic and today we are talking about the short film A Wreck in Paradise by François Zaidi, and writer and director François is here with me. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
First question, when I watched your movie, at some point it felt familiar to me. A guy walks into a bar, there is a strange competition going on, and then a bell ring in my head, and oh, wait a minute, I know the story. It's a joke somebody once told to me. Can you tell me how you got to this joke and how you decided to make it into a movie?
I was told it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a very good friend of mine. His name is Bruno Debray, and he once told me this joke, and it cracked me up. And he told me yet again, and it cracked me up. And he told me maybe for 2-3 years that joke, on and off. And at every point, it cracked me up. And at some point, I said, I should make something out of it. So I rummaged through the internet a bit just to see where it originally came from.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find anything. I've read several variations.
Mm-hmm.
One involves a cowboy. That's not a bar getting in a bar, but it's a cowboy getting in a saloon. Doesn't make much of a difference. But yeah, it's just a joke that I really liked.
So there is a big step from adapting short jokes that you can tell in 2 minutes into such a spectacular short film with a lot of talent in front of behind the camera. How did you go about writing a screenplay based upon this very short story?
Well, as much as I liked the story, I felt it was not enough just to adapt it like it was. We needed context, and I really wanted to say something more about that. Mm-hmm. So I started by the very basic point. Why I tried to understand why I really like that joke. Mm-hmm. Well, there's sex, obviously, so
of course
it might be blood, so it's even better. But what really interested me into the joke is it is a story of failure. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about that, what failure is, and how you can talk about this. And then there's another theme that I accentuated is addiction. The booze, okay, he's biggest alcoholic you can imagine, and failure, addiction. Well, you need to be judged. Who's better to judge someone than God? And so I had my triptych. I had the basic elements to further the story, to make it something a little bit more than just a bar joke.
Mm-hmm. And then you have to get this story that kind of has a life of its own in your head onto the screen, and you not only used biblical allegorizations, you used mythology, Greek mythologies mixed in, you used a familiar setting of a bar. How did you construct this weird, surreal world? What influences went into it, and how did it come to life for you?
Well, there was 2 parts in that. There was the first technical ones. I storyboarded a lot. And then with my, I have a small team that works with me. It's the first AD, Thierry Bayou, and her wife that's actually playing on the film, Léa Deneville. And we worked on the pre-production quite a lot, about 6 months of pre-production. We know we had a very small time to shoot, and of course, very few budget.
As usual.
So I storyboarded a lot, and I made some previews as well. I would do some awkward sketch, and then animate them in order to see how the whole thing would go. It helped us a lot down the line. As far as the bar is concerned, as the settings, we toured a lot. We scouted some possible location to shoot, and we found the one. It was it was several months searching it, and it was right under our nose. One bar in, I think it was 20 kilometers from where I live. Mm-hmm. And we entered the bar and we said, okay, that's it, that's the one. And the owner was kind enough to let us shoot in it for 6 nights. Mm-hmm. So it was stars aligned a little bit, but the bar was really what we wanted. And what we wanted was something a bit weird, where we could establish a duality with life, with light. We wanted a duality with light. So there's big blue, big orange. They symbolizes hell and heaven, and that's it. And the way the bar was configured, plus the pool, the table pool, it was there already, and we needed that. So I go into the location. I drank quite a few beers there for quite a few weeks, and I was sketching and imagining where I could put my cameras, which lenses should I use, and it all come up on paper. And then I think I have somewhere a 12 minutes sketching animation of the film with my voice. It goes like this. You go, well, that's quite a bar you have here, because I'm doing the voice.
Sure.
It's pathetic, but it's a tool that was quite useful, actually, in order to be able to prep for the shooting.
And it is a very distinct visual style. You already mentioned the very, very colorful lights, bright contrast, and sometimes the weird camera, like you go into some wide angles and very unusual shots. All of this preparation, how much feedback did you get from at this part of your work? Who do you show the storyboards to? Or do you trust your own humor and your own style so much that it's kind of a close process?
Well, obviously, I showed it to Thomas Manche with the DOP on the film, but it was much more to have his input on feasibility. And obviously, Thierry Bayou first AD because of the timing matters, and that was the most difficult thing to nail because there's lots of shots, lots of camera movements. But as far as the how I come up with these shots, it's mostly what came out of my brain. I came to cinema, I came to love cinema since I was like 6 years old, and it's been through image, moving image. It's always talked to me. It's always something that appealed to me. And by working quite a lot in pre-production, I wanted to be very sure when to cut, why to cut, and why to use this lens instead of this one. Why are you pushing on somebody? It needed to me, it needed to be to make sense. It needed to have a clear meaning. All the top shots mean that God is watching. The opening scene, for example, it's a top shot that's going from high up as we could to a close shot of the guy. It's then a little shot. It's God opening. Because God is going to watch the case of this guy and send him to purgatory to assess. And there's a lot of other examples, but most of these shots are I tried to make them count. For example, the short reverse shot that we have. I don't know how the framing is right now, but usually in cinemas, they like to have an amorce, meaning the camera is there and you see a bit of the shoulder, and it's like you a bit out of the process. Like it's great for a spying film, for example, because you're hovering something. In this case, we did the opposite, very wide lens, and the camera is in the middle of the conversation. So it's still a short reverse shot because there's a slight axis with the eyes, but you're in the conversation. There's no secret. The guy is dead. This is no secret anymore. So that's one of the things that I tried to put in the film to make sense, to make a little bit of matter. We made a lot of things as well in the background. For example, you can't see it on first, even on second vision, but there's a lot of on the blackboard. There's Route 6066. There's three sixes. There's some I don't remember where, but we put an INRG, which is Jesus of Nazareth. And the posters, we spent quite a few time looking for posters that had two things: alcohol and any kind of deity or mythology or nun or whatever. You would be surprised the number of posters of advertisement we found from the next century. It's amazing. We found 30, 40 posters. So we put them here. It needed to be alcoholic and some kind of religious belief.
And in your visual language and in the scenery, you just really go the extra mile. Like the love for detail is visible throughout the movie. And let's just take a closer look at the very first scene, because the movie is called A Wreck in Paradise. The first scene, as you said, we are angling down from the heavens into a damaged car. Again, it's something that doesn't have to be there. You could just let a drunk walk into the bar and the story could start, but you decided to start it with a crashed car. Can you tell us a little bit why you included it and what does it take to get a wrecked car in front of your camera?
Okay, the car was very important to me because obviously when you hear the joke, the first thing you imagine is someone walking and getting in the bar.
It's
like
the
I
oldest
said,
joke beginning
yeah,
of the book,
that's
right?
the
A man
beginning
walks
of
into
the
a
joke.
bar. Yeah.
The car is a plus for at least 3 reasons in my mind. The first thing is opening shot. Well, we're making short films, and there's a lot of short film out there, and the opening shot is very important. It's like the first sentence when you're writing a book. It's very important because the very, very, very first approach to the film is your opening shot. So let's have one that I don't looks like something is saying something already. So that's the first reason. Second reason is narrative. Why is this car in this state? It's turned over. Obviously, he had an accident, right? Why did he have an accident? Well, the guy is drunk. The first thing he's doing out of the car is drinking. And further down the film, you can realize, you can assess that he actually died in that car crash because he was already drunk. So that pushes the narrative a little further. The narrative that says, look, he's drunk, it's his original sin, he's dying by this sin, he's being judged into purgatory, and yet he fails again, he fails again because of the same thing. So things never change. He's an anti-hero,
Yeah.
and he's doomed. Really, he's doomed. In my mind, in the narrative, he dies, drunk at the wheel. He gets into the bar. There's a challenge. He cannot do the challenge. I mean, the first rule, the guy defeating Golgoth, is just not possible to anyone. So the thing is, he drinks, the bartender makes him drink, and then she is bringing gut rot. He drinks gut rot, it's too strong, and he dies. End of the story, he goes to hell, and they welcome another guy. But this guy here, he doesn't die from gut rot. And that's where all hell breaks loose, pun intended, because he's supposed to die there again. But he's like a superior of alcohol, so he would push a little bit further and then fail because he's drunk, just like that. He could have even the challenge reward is even. I mean, money and the beautiful girl. So he could have even. He breaks Golgoth by chance, really, because of alcohol. Without alcohol, he wouldn't defeat Golgoth, and then he fucks it up. So that's the very Judeo-Christian morally embedded into something a little more gorish.
And in the scene especially where he kills the doorman, it is the one time where the movie gets a little splattery. It's all of the time a little weird, a little uneasy with lots of implications, but this is the one time where the gore comes onto the screen. How far did you want it to go in the scene, or was it from the beginning the thing, we see him with a bowling ball, we have a cut here, we have some blood there, we cut back. How does the violence and the gore evolve in your movie?
I wanted to have the most clean break in the narrative that I could. So the first part of the film, it's actually 3/4 of the film, are pretty slow. Things are getting there, but slowly. You saw the 15-minute version, which is the short version. The original version is 20 minutes long, so it's even longer to prepare. I wanted something slow, but you need to keep it interesting. That's why it's very difficult for filmmakers to nail the I'm slow enough, but I don't bore people with my stuff. And then when he gets up at the bar, he's pushed by the pool player. Then I wanted to break. So it needed to be very, very fast and very, very gory. And that's what I tried to achieve. Having a lot of action just very suddenly. I wanted to surprise the viewers. And furthermore, when you're making a film, and this kind of film, because it's fantasy, there's a lot of promises that are given, and you want to deliver on that promises. And I wanted a very clean break, both in narrative and in a rhythm, and even in that's where the film really is rated under 12, 14, 16, depending of the countries. But that's where it becomes gross, like you said. That was intended from the start. And I wanted to push as much gore as I could in just 10 seconds. I didn't want more. I just wanted a like a punch in the face, really. Something surprising, something raw, and a little bit funny too, because it's quite funny. The thing. At the end, we embed the billiard ball on his eye. It's just a parabola of several things, but it enabled me, for example, to make yet another zenithal shot. God is surprised. I mean, it was never intended to kill the doorman. That never happened. Everybody's aghast by that. And there's, when you play pool, when you play 8, the 8 is at the end, and we put the 8 horizontal, so it's the infinity.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Just at that point, that was mostly why we have that shot descending on him, plus the billiard ball on the eyes, which is funny, gory. It's surprising people, and I think that's why that's the reason why the film has been successful, because if you're surprised by something in a film, at least it's not boring.
It's interesting that you say that it never happened before, because I thought it was kind of a wink again, because the doorman has one eye patch already, you lose another eye. I thought the one eye patch was kind of a hint that at some point somebody
it happened again.
Already, yeah, absolutely.
You might go that way as well. Yes, you might. Yeah. Maybe someone like him did it all.
Yeah, next time, post-credit sequence, a doorman with 2 blindfolds, who knows? It's purgatory after all. Yeah.
We were envisioning post-credit sequence, but about the lady up there. We had all kind of ideas, but we decided against at the end.
Okay. Let us go back one more time to this idea of having a joke and turning it into a movie, because a joke is a completely a spoken word performance, like you just have the words of a story. You turn it into a film, and you tell me about how delicate the pictures are for you, how you compose every shot, where you compose every beat of the story visually. And I think there are 2 very interesting aspects to it. First of all, the joke itself has a verbal punchline. Like, this is how the joke ends, and this is how the film ends. So we are getting back to the words, and I would be interested if there was ever an idea of having it non-verbal, of finding, however that may look, a picture that is a punchline, or if you were always clear, no, it has to be said because that's a part of the joke. That's important.
The end line.
Yeah.
To me, it was really important to have it, because the film is not that clear, actually. I found out by screening it. Some people just don't get the joke. They don't get the joke because it's mixed up with a lot of other stuff. So while we're talking about the challenge, challenge 1, challenge 2, challenge 3, you get the money, and then some other things happens in between. And so some people don't really remember what happened before. And I had some awkward conversation with people that were just asking me, why doesn't he go then to the old lady to finish it?
To get the teas. That's not for right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So you need to be clear.
Yeah.
It needs to be understandable, and then it's a joke with a rhythm as well. Where is the whole hag with a rotten tooth? Yeah, there's a pause in French is et où est-ce qu'elle est la vieille, hein? Que je lui arrache la dent. That pause is important. We have a little sneak peek preview of what may happen, because once again we start from the floor, and we get onto his face because I wanted to show the open trousers. And sometimes it happened yesterday. One or two folks,
they get it there.
They get it there and they laugh at precisely that point. And then the man says the joke.
Yeah.
1 time out of 2, there's a 2-3 second silence. And then there's laugh. And 10-15 seconds later, there's a third wave of laugh, because the people that got it explain to the other people. Okay. And it's a mix of heartedly laughter and a little bit of disgust, which I think is the right amount.
And the last question concerning this architecture of your film, if I may call it so, you said it before a couple of times, you had to pave the way to this point. It's a 50-minute film, it's longer than a short jokes that you tell each other, and you have to make the audience interesting and amused. And we already, that's a big gory scene. But in between, there are so many nice, funny moments of laughter, mostly non-verbal moments, coincidentally in this case. How did you pace that out? How did you decide, okay, we need a joke here and here and there, and we need to have more tempo here or less tempo there? Also, you are just building up to a big climax where everything depends on.
Actually, I'm still asking that question myself.
Okay.
Because it's a very difficult thing, and it's depending on so many elements, including your own feeling. You said non-verbal. Yes, I think the first quarter of the film, there's no dialogue at all.
Absolutely.
At all. He's in the car, he gets out of the car, we see the bottle, so we understand he's a drunkard. First thing he does is drinking, then he doesn't have any more, so that's what... He's not saying, shit, I wrecked my car. He's saying, shit, there's no more booze in my flask. And then in front of the bar, I think it's graphic enough. We had the chance to find that comedian. There is huge, very tall and so muscular. And then we had some special effects to make it strangle that guy because, well, he's a doorman after all. And in that environment, you say, it's a fantastic film, folks. This has nothing to do with something real. We're embarking you, hopefully, onto another kind of journey, something that is not quite standard. It's a hint to say, well, he's dead. It's yet another hint. But yeah, the non-verbal joke, you write sometimes you fix it in, well, you don't fix it, but you try it a lot at the edit point. I had that image from the beginning where the waitress would slap the guy's face through a glass. And that's what we did. It went on and off the film. Well, not on and off as we tried to get rid of it, but I didn't really know where to put it. So I experienced a lot of ways because you need to keep somehow the narration going. It can be non-verbal, but things need to happen. When she's spitting on the bar, it's always working. In cinema with the audience, whether it be laughter, whether it be like grunts of that's disgusting, but it works, and you try to put something here and there to keep it interesting, while non-verbal. Non-verbal is great. Non-verbal is amazing when you can place it, and sometimes you try to do this with music as well.
Yeah.
The music we have is very narrative in that movie. It's like it's like Ludovic is the composer. We tried so many stuff. He tried so many stuff, and he found the idea of having a score that would be like an engine, the engine of hell, because Hayes is just underneath the bar, and so it's working. And there's this weird noise, a lot of bass booms. That is like, well, hell is working, and it's a big machine.
Great, yeah. And the last question from me is, you showed that you can just take more or less anything and make a really spectacular movie out of it if it just touches you and is close to your heart. Did you now open yourself up to people coming to you and be like, Francois, I've got another great joke too. Let me tell you this one. Here's your next project. Oh, this and that happened to me. So are people commenting you and saying, well, here's your next project. Let me tell you 5 jokes. You just pick one.
No, but I could go this way, but it needs to be a very good joke.
Okay.
It's like script. I'm looking for scripts right now, and anything would go, but it needs to talk to me. It needs to be the script, the thing like you say, this, I really can do something like that. Because when you embark on a film like that, you put at least 1 year of work. This film was particularly long to do. We had months and months in post-production. It was a hard film to do. It needs to be something you really care about from the start to the finish. Otherwise, there's no point, I think.
Absolutely. And in this regard, I hope we will find another script or another joke or another story that touches you and that's worth the time and effort. But so far, thank you so much for A Wreck in Paradise, and thanks for the nice conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. That was great. Thanks, Bremen Film Festival as well.
And if you want to watch A Wreck in Paradise, then you can do it here at Filmfest Bremen in the category Humor and Satire, or online until May the 1st.